They had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the Blue Wave.
We flipped. Enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters. Tuesday, February 18th. I am Dean Obeidallah, as always, hoping to be your MBFF. I hope you had a nice 3-day weekend. I hope you had some fun, some time off. I did a lot of cable news over the weekend. That's what happens on vacation weekends. They're like, everyone's away. Dean's here. And I was on Ali Velshi's brand new show, 8 a.m. I was on his first panel. He has a new show Saturday and Sundays on MSNBC. I was on 8 a.m. So I'm with Roland Martin and two normal people. Me and Roland are kind of loud. I think for 8 a.m., they were like, wow, that was a lot of energy. It's like what we do. Roland has a radio show. I do. We're just louder people. I like Roland a great deal. So it was a lot of fun going on there. And then I was on CNN. But then, really interestingly, for the first time ever, I did the C-SPAN where you sit there for an hour and take phone calls from people. And I did it Sunday morning from 9 to 10. And if you're interested, you can go check it out. I might play one clip later. I'm not sure. It was no different than this show. People call in. Democratic line, independent line, Republican line. Democratic line are Democrats. Independent line or Republican line, all Republicans. That's how it works. Same thing we know here when Trumpers call up and go like, I'm undecided. Just say you're a Trump supporter. Why hide it? And it was interesting. Clearly and Sebastian Gorka was on right before me for the hour before. And then I was on. And what I found really intriguing, and we might cut it together later in the week, maybe for Friday for fun, were the phone calls. Some made valid points who were Republicans, but others, I'm not even kidding, said things like, I should really play it because I'm not trying to mock the guy. It's literally, though, what he said. He goes like, this guy, talk about me, he goes, he says a lot of words and I don't like it. He talks too much. He literally said I talk too much because he couldn't respond to the facts. I was laying out facts about Donald Trump. And I guess for some people, they've never heard the other side and just stunned. You know, and I talk about the economy a lot, and one guy called and goes, well, my economy's better. Okay, fine. I wasn't denying. If your economy is better, we're going to talk about the economy in the first hour, great. Great for you. Doesn't make the statistics showing we're in a Trump downturn. This Trump economy is falling apart. Doesn't change that. These are real numbers. I don't make up things. I don't lie. I give you the real facts. Then we together discuss it. So I found it really interesting to be on. Reminder, 259. That's how many days to the most important election of our life. 259. Most important election, by far, of all of our lives. And as I made the point on C-SPAN and MS, and I think even CNN, I think I did on CNN, I had one theme. That this election, typically an incumbent running for re-election, the question is, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And the election is a referendum on the incumbent's performance. And it still will be this time, but it's much bigger than that. And I made that point there, and I made it on this show many times. This election is more than a referendum on Trump. It's a referendum on America. The question is, does America want 4 more years of toxic Trump? Do you want 4 more years of a guy who celebrates cruelty and bullying? A guy who celebrates white supremacy and bigotry? Who defends every Republican man who abuses women? From his aide, Rob Porter, to Roy Moore, to Brett Kavanaugh. And worse, and defends them, in the case of Brett Kavanaugh with Dr. Christine Ford, in the middle of the hearings, when she courageously testified about her truth and how she was assaulted by Brett Kavanaugh, Trump didn't just deny it. He went to a rally and mocked her for laughs. It's this simple. It's not, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? That's not. Trump is so unique. That's not even the discussion. Do you want 4 more years of this guy and what he does? And look what we're doing today. He pardoned a bunch of white criminals today. I'd love to see the base reaction if he pardoned 11 black criminals. How do you think that would have played? But a bunch of white criminals were either pardoned or clemency or commuted their sentence today. And we'll talk about Elie Mystal will be here in the third hour. We'll go into much more detail. One I will know, Bernie Kerik. And it's interesting. Washington Post has a great article this afternoon. I tweeted out the ties between each person pardoned and Trump donors. Its pardons are for sale with this administration. This is beyond swamp. Swamp's not the right word. This is corruption in our face. This is third world banana republic stuff. And Bernie Kerik, the one that he pardoned, Bernie Kerik, who's out of prison a long time, but Bernie Kerik, who he pardoned, is a close friend of Rudy Giuliani, hangs out at Mar-a-Lago, is on Fox News all the time, and they pardoned him because he wanted it. And obviously all of this is twofold. One, to send a message to Rudy, because Rudy is really, I think, close to being indicted. Send a message to Rudy, don't flip. I'm going to protect you. And of course to Roger Stone. By doing all these pardons and clemency and commuting sentences now, when he does it to Roger Stone, he'll say, well, it's not just Roger Stone. I do this all the time. That's what he's going to say. And Trump's number one thing to run on for re-election that supporters can articulate, because they really won't say, Trump makes me feel better to be a white person. They won't say that. If they did, at least we have an honest conversation. They won't say that. They'll say it's the economy. It's greatest ever. Well, folks, we're going to go through now. The economy under Trump is sliding and sliding and sliding. And in response, he's lying and lying and lying. These are all real numbers. These are real news stories. In the last few weeks, I do not exaggerate. I give you numbers. If the economy is better for you, so be it. I'm happy for you. I don't want a recession, but I'm not going to sit here as Donald Trump puts his minions on TV and lie again today as they did. And the reason Trump had his minions out lying for him is that over the weekend, President Obama, the real president, tweeted this. 11 years ago today, near the bottom of the worst recession in generations, I signed the Recovery Act, paving the way for more than a decade of economic growth and the longest streak of job creation in American history. Close quotes. That's 100% correct. 11 years ago, over the weekend, signed the Recovery Act. And once we get out of the recession, we had the longest, and we continue. Donald Trump has continued what President Obama laid the groundwork for, with job growth each month. No denying it. But Trump can't allow that. Donald Trump wants you to believe we were in a depression and he came in and turned it all around. That's a lie. So Trump tweeted in response to Obama, did you hear the latest con job? President Obama is now trying to take credit for the economic boom taking place under the Trump administration. Then he tweeted later, even angrier, going against Obama, saying, weakest recovery since the Great Depression. Now best jobs numbers ever. Tweeted again in writing, now best jobs number ever. That is a lie. That is a lie. That is a clear lie. It's not even hard to prove. We'll go through it. We've talked about it on the show before. But that didn't stop Donald Trump from sending Peter Navarro out, his lying assistant, who went on TV and lies all the time. He's the trade advisor. He was on with Poppy Harlow on CNN and listen to him trying to tell you the economy under Obama was horrible. But when Trump got in, he changed it. The economy is great now. Here's clip number one.
That set up the economic boom that we're having right now. And back in the Obama-Biden years, it was horrible. We had this new normal of a growth under 2%. Wages
Peter,
were not
I'm
rising.
Sorry, I can't let
you can
Peter,
look at your numbers.
I'm just going to pull back the numbers up. The numbers are the numbers, Peter.
Poppy.
Guys, can we please just pull back up? Can we please just pull back up the GDP growth?
Put your numbers up.
Nope, the other one. They're not my numbers. These are numbers from the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Over 4% economic growth, 4 quarters under President Obama. We have not seen growth above 4% on a quarterly basis under President Trump. It's a good economy now. It's a great economy now. All I'm asking you is, wasn't it a good economy then as well?
No, it was
That's all
not.
I'm
it was
asking
a horrible economy during the Obama years.
Let me read you a quote and tell me if it reminds you of someone. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. The truth is the mortal enemy of the lie, and thus by extension, the truth is the greatest enemy of the state. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. That is Trump's philosophy. There's no doubt about it. That's also Joseph Goebbels' famous quote, the Nazi propagandist for Hitler. This is what Trump is doing to us, and he sends out his people like Peter Navarro to lie. Now here's Christine Romans on CNN, fact-checking. All these numbers she uses for fact-checking come from where? The Trump administration. Because until Trump can stop them, and I expect that to happen, I'm not kidding, at some point he will not allow his Department of Labor to release these numbers, because then you can use them to fact-check his lies, because that's how we're doing it. We're fact-checking it with his own administration statistics. Here's clip number 2, Christine Romans from today.
Trump rode to the White House claiming the Obama economy wasn't good enough. But on both a quarterly and annual basis, economic growth under Trump has not yet exceeded the best quarters of the Obama years. Growth last year at 2.3% missed White House targets. Trump's 2018 yearly growth of 2.9%, his best, that tied Obama's best year. The jobs market is strong, with nearly 6.7 million jobs added in the first 35 months of the Trump administration. But that trails the nearly 8 million jobs in the final 35 months of Obama's tenure. Now, consumers are confident, and stocks rose sharply again last year. But corporate investment has contracted now for 3 quarters in a row. The economy is just not as supercharged as the president advertised, and it's not growing strongly enough to pay for the president's corporate tax cuts in 2017.
Absolutely. In fact, here's Donald Trump, December 2017, and I hope this ends up in ads for Democrats. Here's clip number 3.
The economy now has hit 3%. Nobody thought it would be anywhere close. I think we can go to 4, 5, and maybe even 6% ultimately.
There he is, promising. He says at 3%, we're going to go to 4, 5, and 6%. What was the GDP growth in 2019? Just heard Christine Romans. 2.3%, folks. The weakest since Trump took office. Trump loves to talk about unemployment. Unemployment did such a great job. Under Obama, unemployment went from 10% down to 4.7%. That's down 5.3%. How much has it got down under Trump? A little over 1%. And how often does Donald Trump, do you hear him say, Black and Hispanic unemployment is the lowest in history? Just saying it the other day at a rally. Do you want to know where Black and Hispanic employment really is? For the last 6 months, it's gone up 10%. 10% increase in Black and unemployment. These are all numbers from his administration. He won't mention it. It's an inconvenient truth because he uses Black and Hispanic people as a prop to get an applause line from his base. Black and Hispanic unemployment, per Trump's own numbers, has risen 10%, folks, in the last 6 months. 10% increase. So it's not even close to the lowest anymore. What about the percentage of Americans working? Labor participation rate is called. When Trump took office, 62.8% of Americans either looking for a job or working full-time. Economic boom, Trump says, greatest ever. You would think that number from 62.8% would have skyrocketed. 66, 67, maybe 70% of Americans. Where is it? Went from 62.8% to 63.4%. It's up 0.6%, not even a percent. And job growth, Donald Trump telling us job growth, best ever, best jobs numbers ever. 2019, the job growth was the lowest since 2011. Not my numbers. That's the Trump administration numbers. And that's what I'm saying. I think expect Trump to keep his administration from giving us these numbers. They already overestimate job growth every month. I've called this out on the show over and over. Each month, they overestimate job growth. And then 2 or 3 months later, they revise it downwardly, and not like normal downwardly, ridiculously downwardly. So they are lying. They are rounding everything way up to make Trump happy. But ultimately, we get the correct numbers. And when you match it up, this economy is slowing. Manufacturing sector of our economy at one time was doing well under Trump. I'm be completely honest. 2017 and 18, the manufacturing sector was growing. That was creating jobs. Where is it now? We are now officially in a recession in the manufacturing sector. The sector has contracted below zero. It is losing jobs. Last month alone, it lost 12,000 jobs. The manufacturing sector is no longer a blue-collar miracle. It is struggling right now. Truckers. We have a lot of truckers who listen. Business Insider had a great article. Sad article, but insightful. Headline, Bloodbath in Trucking Industry. They have not seen in numerous years this many trucking companies close as in 2019. What about farmers? New data a few weeks ago. 2019 numbers are finally out. U.S. bankruptcies in 2019, this according to the U.S. government, U.S. bankruptcies for farmers 2019 jumped 20%, an 8-year high. This is an economic miracle. This is a boom. Farmers, 20% increase in bankruptcies, an 8-year high, and this is directly tied to Donald Trump's failed trade war. Farmers are struggling. Truckers are struggling. Manufacturing sector is struggling. Wage growth is flat. And then here are new numbers in the last few weeks. Today, Walmart, one of the biggest retailers, reporting of earnings. Remember Trump saying the holiday season was the best ever? Well, guess what? It wasn't. Walmart said their fiscal fourth quarter, which is just the last 3 months of the year, fell short of estimates. Retailers saw a weak demand for toys, apparel, and video games during the holiday season. And its outlook going forward for this year is not as good, disappointing investors. Here are other examples of downturns. These are layoffs just in the last few weeks, except for one that's summarizing it. These are in the last 2 weeks to month announced. And I am not rooting for a recession. I just want you to know the facts. So when people go, the economy is the greatest ever, you can say, well, how come unemployment is trending up for Black and Latino workers? Why is the percentage of Americans who are working not much higher? Here are some. 2 weeks ago, U.S. Steel announced layoffs of more than 1,500 workers at its facility near Detroit. In December, Halliburton closed its office in Oklahoma, laying off 800 people. The oil industry is verge of a recession. The Houston Chronicle reported nearly 5,000 oil and gas jobs lost in Texas from June through December 2019 alone. Last week, nearly 1,800 positions eliminated in big four major retailers: Jet Black, Wayfair, Kohl's, and Barney's. For Wayfair, 350 jobs in Boston alone. 2 weeks ago, Ford Motor Company announced plans to lay off 270 workers, but it gets worse from there. The audio industry is set to cut more jobs, saying they might reduce 30% across-the-board reductions in workforce at their stamping plant. According to a union representative, morale is at a point of mutiny. Tech company just announced 8 Bay Area tech companies in San Fran laying off 1,000 people. Union Pacific, the train company, just announced cutting 8% of their workforce, and revenue fell by nearly 10% last year. Spirit Airlines, we all know Spirit Airlines, just announced laying off 2,800 workers in Wichita, Kansas. But the stock market, it's through the roof. It is. Objectively, you can't deny Dow Jones and S&P. They're up. Here's the reality. About 52% of Americans own anything tied to the stock market: IRA, 401k, mutual fund, or actual stocks. But who makes all the money on this? The 84% of the gains in the stock market go to the top 10% of Americans. So if you're in the top 10%, you're making 84% of the boon. And here's the cruelty in all of this. These companies lay off people. They downsize, pay less salaries, less healthcare costs, and guess what? Their stocks go up. So the corporate executives are making more money while the workers have no jobs or getting no wage increases. Donald Trump wants you to believe this is as good as it gets, and it's not. And it's up to our Democratic candidates to make that case. And some are doing it better than others. And whoever our nominee is, I think running on the economy is vitally important, because this is not an economic boom. It is a slowdown. We are trending downward. Fears of recession this year are the estimates of that are on the low end. At one point, it was on the higher end. We'll see how it plays out. The coronavirus is a wild card in all of this. Apple today reported their earnings this quarter are not going to be good because they had to close factories in China and their stores in China. We have no idea how much longer that situation will be, if it'll get worse and result in other stores closing around France or Germany, where they had some outbreaks. And I hope it doesn't get to that level. And tomorrow, I think we have a doctor on to talk about coronavirus, to cut through the fear and just talk about the reality of it, because it's probably going to make its way to the U.S. at some point in some form. So we should be ready for that. But Donald Trump wants you to believe the economy is booming, best ever. And under Obama, it sucked, but now it's great. That's not the truth. Donald Trump inherited a very strong economy, and he slowed down job growth. He slowed down wage growth, is just about the same as Obama, which wasn't great. You have layoffs now building, but the rich have gotten richer. I cannot deny that. I cannot deny that Donald Trump's buddies he plays golf with are doing better now than they did under Obama. He gave them a massive tax cut. They didn't trickle it down to their workers like they promised, which we all said that was never going to happen because we've been lied to before on the trickle-down theory, which never happens because the rich keep their money. There should have been a middle-class tax cut alone, just for the middle class. they spend their money. When you give us money, we spend it. When you're wealthy, you've got the money to buy what you want already. So here's where we are. And I'd love to hear from people, and I sincerely don't want this to be partisan. How is the economy by you? How is your industry? What's going on with you? And if it's going great, so be it. I'm not here to say it's bad. I believe there is a bubble, that the stock market is not an indicator right now of the overall financial well-being of our nation. I had Ali Velshi from New Hampshire. We had a long discussion about this. He's like an expert in economics. He talks about it all the time for years, from CNN when he hosted The Money Show to Al Jazeera, now to MSNBC. The disconnect between stock market prices and average American is now more and more acute. This economy is looking more and more like 1929 U.S., right on the precipice of the Depression and the Great Crash. Income inequality right now, this is objective, folks. Income inequality today mirrors that in America in 1920s, right before the crash. Because if you don't have a vibrant middle class, things become unstable. And all you need is another boom in a negative way, another real estate bust, I should say, not boom, another bust in the area, or stock market massive correction. We don't know where this goes. Coronavirus, things we can't control. So how is the economy by you? Are things going well? So be it. I'd love to hear it. Is your industry struggling? Is it the same? Have you seen a change for the better, worse, or nothing under Trump the last 3 years? And what about your peers, your friends, your neighbors? What are they seeing? What are you hearing from them? 866-997-4748. You're my guest at top of the hour. At top of the hour, Tim O'Brien, who is a really good guy, because I used to go on MS with him all the time, is a senior advisor for Bloomberg campaign. You may have seen him on different shows over the week, and he's going to be on here. We're going to talk about Bloomberg. We're going to talk about, in a very fair conversation, the good of his record and also the very, very bad of his record, because there is some really bad stuff. But there is some good stuff, and I want to be fair to Mayor Bloomberg for his record, because my goal with this show is not to advocate for any candidate, for you to hear everything about them, the good and the bad, and you make your choice. And if you can forgive a candidate for whatever issue it is, so be it. That's your choice. It's a primary. You pick who you want. So we'll have Tim at the top of the hour. And then after Tim, we'll talk about Bloomberg, because I really want to hear. We haven't had time. I'd love to get people's reaction later to Bloomberg, because he's in the debate tomorrow, and I'm assuming Tim will tell us he's confirming he'll be in the debate. I haven't seen any news to the contrary, but he qualified as of today. Love to hear from you, though, right now. How's the economy where you are? How are things doing? You feeling good? Are you optimistic? Are you concerned? 866-997-4748. Be right back.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
I think Trump clips that they play on the media should come with a health warning saying that if you watch this, you'll get dumber. Never has somebody said so much stupid in so little time as Donald Trump does.
SiriusXM Progress.